You think you've seen big? Think again. These men didn't just lift weights. They shattered what we thought the human body could become. Today, we're counting down the biggest bodybuilders of all time, the freaks and legends who pushed their bodies beyond all limits. And by the end, you'll see who truly stands above them all as the heaviest, widest, and most terrifyingly massive physique ever built on this planet. Number 10. The modern-day monster. Born in New Jersey, Nick Walker did not just step onto a bodybuilding stage to compete. He built a body so freakishly huge. During the off-season, his weight can climb close to 300 pounds. Then comes the shocking part. When competition time arrives, he cuts down to around 260 pounds, yet somehow looks even more massive. His muscles become extremely thick. His veins stand out across his body, and almost every trace of body fat disappears. And if that already sounds extreme, his nickname tells you exactly how unreal his body looks. They call him the Mutant. Nick combines the terrifying muscle thickness seen in the 1990s with the more balanced shape expected from today's top bodybuilders. Number 9. The Artist of Muscle. Brooklyn-born Kai Greene turned bodybuilding into a full-blown performance art. Known as the Predator, he does not simply walk on stage and flex. He uses his entire body to tell stories. During the off-season, Kai can push close to 300 pounds. When competition arrives, he shreds down to around 265 pounds. And this is where Kai's body control becomes almost unbelievable. This is a man carrying more than 260 pounds of muscle, yet he can roll across the stage, balance upside down on his head, spread his legs into a full split, and then rise back into another pose. How does a body that massive even move like that? Even more interesting, Kai sometimes sketches his posing routines on paper before performing them, planning how one movement leads into the next. That level of control is one of his trademarks. His mind-muscle connection is definitely legendary. But for Kai, bodybuilding is never just a race to become the biggest man in the room. He sees the struggle as a way to master himself. Kai proves that a man can build an unbelievably massive body and still have enough control to move it in extraordinary ways. Number 8. The real-life Hulk. Long before millions knew him as the Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno was a hard-of-hearing kid from Brooklyn, New York, who was bullied because of it. Then he built himself into a giant. Standing around 6 feet 5 inches tall, Lou towered over other bodybuilders. In later competition years, his weight climbed beyond 300 pounds, while in the 1970s, he competed around 270 pounds. He was huge, ripped, and frighteningly powerful. Lou went head-to-head with Arnold Schwarzenegger during the 1970s, and their rivalry in pumping iron helped define an entire era of bodybuilding. But Lou was not only built to look powerful. His real strength could get almost unbelievable. As Lou himself has recounted, one day he wanted to park his Volkswagen, but another car was blocking the space. So what did he do? He grabbed the other car with his bare hands, lifted and shifted it out of the way, then parked his Volkswagen. Seriously, who moves somebody else's car by hand just to get a parking spot? With strength like that, perhaps Hollywood could not have picked a better man for what came next. Lou covered that enormous body in green paint and became the Incredible Hulk. He helped drag massive muscle into mainstream television and became one of the most recognizable muscular men in the world. Lou was not just massive, he became television's first superhero built from pure muscle. Number 7. The man who dethroned a king. Massachusetts bodybuilder Jay Cutler built his career on patience, precision, and a brutal refusal to quit. In his prime, Jay packed around 305 pounds onto his body during the off-season, then stepped on stage, shredded at around 265 pounds. His physique was massive but carefully built, with wide shoulders, a tight waist, and thick, evenly developed muscle. But Jay's training could get frightening. He has said that when he was younger, he regularly squatted so brutally hard that his nose would start bleeding. Even crazier, Jay says he could squat 700 pounds at just 19 years old. 700 pounds, while most teenagers his age were barely figuring out the gym. And somehow, that was only the beginning. During his peak, Jay said he would leg press more than 1,000 pounds, then walk outside with a loaded bar across his back and hammer out walking lunges on scorching pavement. He said the ground could reach nearly 130 degrees Fahrenheit, and he would keep this brutal leg workout going for around 2 hours, barely resting between sets. Jay pushed himself so hard that his workouts could leave him feeling like he was about to puke. But what truly made Jay dangerous was his mindset. He finished second to Ronnie Coleman again and again, but he refused to break. Instead, Jay studied the man who kept beating him, rebuilt his own physique, and kept coming back. Then, in 2006, the moment finally came. Jay defeated Ronnie Coleman and took the Mr. Olympia crown from the man who had ruled bodybuilding for 8 straight years. Number 6. The Freak Among Giants. Neckzilla is extremely wide, powerfully built, and so freakishly massive that when he walks into a room, everyone else suddenly looks small. His enormous neck, monstrous legs, and terrifying size have left even bodybuilding legends asking the same question. What the hell is that? Rubiel Mosquera stands around 5 feet 11 inches tall, but has pushed his body weight beyond 300 pounds. His neck measures around 20 inches, while his thighs have been reported at a staggering 33 inches. His arms have measured around 21 inches, giving him enormous size almost everywhere you look. But his legs are where things become really insane. Rubiel's thighs are so thick that each one can measure close to the size of an average adult man's waist, and those legs sit beneath an upper body that is already extremely wide and dense. His traps rise around his neck, his shoulders spread outward, and his chest and back carry so much mass that his head can look strangely small between them. That is why bodybuilding legends immediately noticed him. 8-time Mr. Olympia Lee Haney called Rubiel a walking mass monster and a serious threat. Then Kevin Levrone made an even crazier comparison. After watching Rubiel's rapid growth, he compared what he was seeing to Ronnie Coleman, saying Rubiel looked like a combination of Ronnie and legendary mass monster Victor Richards. And perhaps the craziest part is that experts do not believe Rubiel needs more size. He already has more than enough. The question is whether he can bring that enormous body onto the Olympia stage completely shredded. Because if Neckzilla can keep all that freakish mass while getting his conditioning right, Lee Haney believes he has what it takes to win Mr. Olympia. Rubiel Mosquera did not get the name Neckzilla by accident. His neck is huge, his legs are monstrous, his entire body is packed with extreme mass, and even in a sport filled with giants, Neckzilla somehow manages to look enormous. Number 5. The strongest bodybuilder to ever live. Louisiana-born Ronnie Coleman did not walk into bodybuilding as a star. Before the Olympia trophies, he was just a police officer working shifts by day and destroying terrifying amounts of weight in the gym at night. In his prime, Ronnie weighed around 315 pounds in the off-season, stepping on stage at a jaw-dropping 295 pounds with one of the heaviest and most freakishly conditioned physiques bodybuilding had ever seen. And somehow, his strength was even more terrifying than his size. Ronnie could squat 800 pounds and leg press more than 2,000 pounds. This was strength that almost did not seem human. But here is where Ronnie's story turns brutal. He has said he trained through serious injuries, including a herniated disc, and still kept lifting enormous weights. Eventually, all that punishment came crashing back on his body. He went through multiple surgeries on his back, neck, and hips, ended up relying on crutches and a wheelchair, and at his lowest point, the man who once carried impossible weights had to learn how to walk all over again. Yet before his body paid that terrible price, Ronnie completely dominated bodybuilding. From 1998 through 2005, he ruled the Mr. Olympia stage with 8 straight victories, tying the record for the most wins in the competition's history. His back looked like a massive armored wall, and his legs looked like they had been carved from solid granite. And when Ronnie screamed, "Yeah, buddy," before another crushing lift, everyone knew what was coming. It became more than a catchphrase. It was the war cry that came right before Ronnie attacked another frightening weight. Ronnie Coleman did not just lift weights. He raised the standard for what people believed the human body could possibly do. Number 4. The man with monster shoulders. German bodybuilder Markus Rühl did not start out as a mass monster. At 18, a serious knee injury from soccer sent him into the gym to strengthen his damaged leg. At the time, Markus says he weighed only around 120 pounds. But once he started training, his body exploded. Years later, that skinny soccer player would become one of the biggest men professional bodybuilding had ever seen. Standing 5 feet 10 inches tall, Markus could weigh more than 320 pounds in the off-season, then step on stage around 280 pounds. His muscles were so brutally thick that his body almost did not look real, and his shoulders became legendary, huge, round, and freakishly wide. But this is where Markus's strength becomes almost unbelievable. He could shoulder press roughly 500 pounds on a Smith machine for 6 reps. And that was not all. During shoulder workouts, he would hold a 225-pound barbell in each hand and shrug both at the same time, meaning his shoulders were moving a combined 450 pounds. But Markus wasn't chasing perfection. He was chasing chaos. Every rep was war. And when you look at men like him, you start to realize something. These men weren't just lifters chasing bigger numbers. They were builders of extreme mass, pushing their bodies far beyond what most people would ever dare to attempt. He even openly embraced being called a freak, saying he considered it a compliment when people reacted in shock to his size. And it worked. Even without dominating Mr. Olympia, Markus became one of bodybuilding's most famous mass monsters and a fan favorite whenever that enormous physique walked on stage. Number 3. The underrated bodybuilder. Johnny Jackson could turn an ordinary gym session into something frightening. He trained with such extreme intensity that when he slammed his dumbbells onto the floor, the crash could frighten everyone around him. And Johnny had the strength to back it all up. He could bench press around 600 pounds and squat a crushing 824 pounds. Then came his deadlift. Johnny pulled an unbelievable 831 pounds off the floor. He was considered one of the strongest professional bodybuilders of his era, with only monsters like Ronnie Coleman making his strength look remotely normal. And Johnny trained exactly like those numbers suggest. At Metroflex Gym, he joined forces with his friend and training partner, Branch Warren, and their workouts became famous for their frightening intensity. They attacked huge weights, hammered out rep after rep, and kept pushing until almost nothing was left. Their sessions became so violent that the iron itself cracked under the punishment. But here is what makes Johnny's story even more painful. All that strength could not guarantee bodybuilding's biggest prize. He competed at Mr. Olympia several times, yet his best finish came in 2007, when he placed 9th. In a cruel twist, some of what made Johnny so frightening in the gym could work against him on stage. He was incredibly thick and massive, but Mr. Olympia judges were not simply looking for the biggest man. They wanted balance, shape, and symmetry too. Johnny knew his natural body structure made that harder for him, no matter how much muscle he added or how brutally strong he became. But he refused to give up. He kept training heavier, harder, and with an intensity few bodybuilders could match. Johnny Jackson did not just build muscle to look powerful. He built the kind of muscle that could move more than 800 pounds. And every time he touched the iron, he proved exactly how frightening that difference could be. Number 2. The modern-day Colossus. Before Mamdou Big Ramy, LSBA became one of the biggest bodybuilders on earth. He was a fisherman in Egypt. Then he discovered bodybuilding, and his transformation became almost unbelievable. He went from hauling nets to hauling iron, from the shores of Egypt to the biggest bodybuilding stage on Earth, Mr. Olympia. Standing around 5 feet 10 inches tall, Big Ramy has climbed beyond 340 pounds in the off-season, then stepped on stage near 300 pounds. He was not simply big, he was extremely massive. His legs looked like carved marble, and his lats were wide enough to cast shadows over his competitors. When he stepped on stage, the crowd didn't cheer, they gasped. During one brutal workout, he loaded a leg press with 28 plates, more than 1,200 pounds, and pushed out 14 reps. But Ramy did not build those enormous legs by simply loading machines with ridiculous weight. He was known for going deep and controlling every rep instead of barely moving the weight. Then, in 2020, all that size finally reached the top. Big Ramy shocked the bodybuilding world by defeating reigning champion Brandon Curry and taking the Mr. Olympia title. And he was not finished. He returned in 2021 and won it again. The former Egyptian fisherman was now standing at the very top of professional bodybuilding. Big Ramy wasn't just a bodybuilder, he became a symbol of global pride, carrying Egypt's flag all the way to the top of the bodybuilding world. And every time that massive physique stepped on stage, it sent one clear message. The new era of giants had arrived. Number 1. The biggest mass monster ever. Greg Kovach didn't just redefine big, he made the word obsolete. Born in Niagara Falls, Canada, this 6'4" powerhouse was not just another massive competitor. He became one of the most extreme examples of size professional bodybuilding had ever seen. In his prime, Greg weighed more than 420 pounds in the off-season and competed at around 330 pounds. Even among professional bodybuilders, those numbers are staggering. His arms reportedly measured around 27 inches, while his chest stretched beyond 70 inches, and those measurements completely changed how Greg looked beside other people. His shoulders are unbelievably wide, his chest is enormous, and his arms look almost too large for his frame. At 6'4" and hundreds of pounds, he made already massive bodybuilders look small beside him. Greg Kovach pushed his body toward a level of size very few professional bodybuilders had ever reached. Every year of training took him further, until he became known around the bodybuilding world for one thing above everything else: sheer, unbelievable mass. And even after his death, Greg's name remains tied to that extreme pursuit of size. He did not simply become one of bodybuilding's biggest men. He became one of the clearest examples of just how enormous a professional bodybuilder could become.